Vax Design, when we were first looking for a new space, we necessarily weren't going to use a broker because we did think that it was going to be easy for us just to renew our lease or find a new space or something like that. When Coughlin Commercial came in and kind of helped us to see, laid out all of the costs of renewing our current lease versus expanding our current lease and changing some build out and things like that.
It goes back to Steve's history of knowledge of this area and the people in this area that to me is something that you can't get on your own because you're not doing it every day. If you're just doing it once every 5 years, you don't know, you don't have a relationship for negotiating with these clients. You haven't rehearsed it.
My advice to anybody is that you ought to stick to your knitting, and we're in the aviation business, we're not in the office, rental, commercial property business, and so it was certainly made a lot more sense for us to do what we're good at and let somebody else help us in areas that they have more expertise.
That was one of the big benefits, is having someone who knows what you can get even when you're doing a renewal, because obviously they're thinking they're not going to spend as much a lot of times, and because you're already there, and having someone that kind of knows what the limits of that are, how they factor it in. And yeah, not only did we get money to redo the expanded space, but to redo much of the existing space. And I think we, in negotiations, more than doubled the. And I don't know that I would have asked for that. I thought it was a lot. I'm thinking there's no way they're going to double it, but you asked for it and they did. And then each time we renewed. This is the third time with Steve that the rent I renewed to was less than the rent that we were currently paying. In this case, it's even less than what we started at 5 years ago.
We think he did a great job, and the proof of that is that we ended up staying where we are or were at that time, and are actually paying less of a square foot price today than we were at the time that Steve got involved. While I negotiate leases, again, they're based on airport type operations. Steve was able to help us because he knew market conditions, knew what we should be able to get, and did some very tough negotiations, both with Highwoods as well as their counsel.
We did not want to move. We actually even told him we were not going to move. So this is another service that he kind of provided to us too, by coming in and helping us do a cost analysis. Said, you really need to move because in the long run, you're really gonna save money by doing something different and rebuilding out something that works for you. So that we really did save money and have a lot better setup for us because of that. But just through time of getting to know him, I kind of started respecting him and knew that he had been around a while and knew people around, so we had just asked him for some recommendations on some people. Mostly we were looking for a CPA firm since our old one was in Oklahoma and we needed to switch and move to something local. So he had introduced us to Tim O'Toole.
What I learned is that while working with Steve, that there can be a big difference, and that so when I contemplated, I realized real quick I have no idea what people are actually signing leases for. I mean, I asked some of my associates that I know in the business, and none of the situations are the same. They're either in the outskirts or not in the central business district, or they have a different type of building, and it's not comparable. But I find that having Steve's knowledge of the market and what's recently been negotiated easily saved me more than I could imagine saving.
We thought it was a better use of our time to have a third party do the market research for us, find us some comparable locations, and then present us with some options, and that's what Steve did.
Well, the other thing I think that I would tend to be as a person when I'm negotiating, that I have a tendency to want to just lay everything out on the table, and I find that one of the things Steve coached me on that helped a lot was holding back where you stood on certain things, not being willing to communicate with them too quickly and let them sit on it at critical points in negotiations, so that they're a little bit nervous more as to what you're doing. They don't know, so they don't hear anything. They're thinking, well, and then during that time, maybe go look at one of your other sites again with the other, in the other building, because it amazes me that how much the different brokers talk, and how if I go walk and go look at another site, how quick that gets around. And everybody, including the folks in this building, know, well, maybe they did something wrong, because all of a sudden I'm going back and look at the other site again.